In today's video, I'm going to save you from a lot of fear and anguish by explaining to you the difference between sales and marketing and why not knowing the difference can be the cause of many problems for many B2B consultants, coaches, agency owners who are struggling to get clients. Once you understand this crucial difference, you will maybe realize why so far your efforts at client acquisition have been going nowhere. Maybe you've been building systems like the prospect did, who I will tell you about in a minute, and maybe those systems result in 1 to maybe 5 sales calls every month, but things are getting a little bit tight and your financial runway might be getting a little bit short. This, my friend, is squarely down to not knowing the difference between sales and marketing and not applying this difference for your benefit. So we'll cover that today. And as I like to do it, and you've voted with your clicks that this is actually the way you like to watch my videos, I'm going to share my screen again and go through my script for this video so that you can read and listen at the same time, which is proven to help with information retention. So let's go over to my script. And this video is directly inspired by a sales call that I had with a prospective client. Many of my videos these days are prompted by that, but that's because A, I'm booking a lot of sales calls these days, between 3 and 4 a day. So I'm taking quite a lot of ideas from that. And B, when people disagree with me about something, that often makes for the most interesting sales calls and the biggest learnings. As you know, it's very hard to convince someone that their belief about something is wrong. It's really difficult to do that in the moment. You can plant a seed that might gradually germinate, but when you're confronting them with something that blows up how they've been viewing the world, there's almost zero chance that you will close them. And it's just too fresh. Almost no one has the emotional maturity to put their ego aside. And sometimes you actually do want to ruminate when you've experienced a big reframe. So what's the story? This guy I spoke to has a small consulting practice going and things have been a bit lean for him and he needed new clients pretty urgently. Like we're talking in the next 2 months or he would be in considerable financial trouble. I asked him what he's currently doing to change the situation and he said that he was building a funnel whereby he has an automation tool that runs over LinkedIn, which adds prospects to his network. Once they accept his connection request, it collects the people into an email tool, which then sends them a cadence of 5 emails over the course of 2 weeks. With links to white papers and other interesting content that he's building. And at the end, he offers them a networking call during which he then plans to pitch a free diagnostic project to see if they could work together. And if they complete the diagnostic, then he'd pitch them a paid project. So it was quite the elaborate funnel. And as is the case with most of my prospects, his sole source of clients up to that point was his network and referral. So he didn't have any experience with winning a complete stranger as a client. That's important. So when you hear about this funnel and you combine it with the fact that he urgently needed a new client in the next 2 months, what do you think? Is that a good plan? Well, think about how long it would take him from day 1 of this funnel to actually close a new paying client if everything went well immediately. Let's also assume very generously that he can book 10 networking calls for every 100 people he approaches. And that's very generous, right? And that 5 of those networking calls would turn into a free diagnostic project, which then would take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. And then out of those 5, 1 would become a paying client. Again, very optimistic assumptions, but let's allow for them. How long would it then take to get a paying client? Well, to get 100 people on LinkedIn to connect with us, we need probably some 4 weeks, given that there's a limitation of 100 connection requests a week, assuming a middle of the road 25% connection accept rate. So the last person would get into that funnel 4 weeks from now. So you see where this is headed, right? Because then we add 2 weeks for the whole email cadence to go through, another 1 to 2 weeks to schedule a networking call, and we're already at 2 months. Add the fact that many people reschedule an already scheduled call and that the diagnostic project would take 2 to 4 weeks to complete. And then there's vacation time and, oh, I'm going on holiday. Oh, I got sick. I need to reschedule and all of that. So we're already at the end of month 3. And we haven't sold a single thing for money yet. And all of this is still a good case scenario where we're getting good numbers across the funnel. You know, as I said, very optimistic. People are happy to book sales calls with us, and we're assuming very good overall numbers across the funnel. So 3 months from now would be the first optimistic opportunity to get feedback on the offer he was actually selling for money. So I told my prospect this, and he did admit that that was a weakness in his plan, and he asked me what I would do instead. I said that I would email 100 people in his target market every day, asking them if they had the problem he could help them solve, schedule sales calls right off the bat and try to close them. And that way, he could book sales calls for literally tomorrow instead of 3 months from now. And sure, he would have to do more of them to get a close because it's much easier to sell to somebody who you've spoken to several times over, who you've did a free diagnostic project to. That's absolutely. But still, if you can manage a 1% call booking rate, and just a very measly 5% close rate, okay, this is really pessimistic, then you would have a closed deal in a month's time Also, because he would be having his first sales call tomorrow, he could iterate on his offer immediately. A prospect gives you negative feedback on your pitch. Well, you can change it tomorrow and try again. You iterate much faster. And so contrast that first sales call 3 months from now versus tomorrow. What's the better option? And I just drew this out just to visualize this. Here you can see kind of these are like iterations where every day you could have one sales call, you learn from it and you incorporate it into the next call, and you will get gradually better at them. But sales calls are simply just like reps that you do as an athlete. You have to have more of them in order to learn from them and to do it better next time. It's just like whatever, swinging the golf club, swinging the tennis racket. Whereas in comparison, when you look at these, let's say those are 90 iterations, and then you would have one big attempt. You know, this is like, there's this one great story Alex Hormozi talks about when he says that there's 2 cohorts of pottery students. And one of them is being told, create the best possible clay pot. You have 3 months to create the best possible clay pot. And the other group is being told, create as many clay pots as you possibly can. Well, what happens after 3 months is that the group that has produced as many clay pots as they possibly can will not only have produced more clay pots, they will have produced better clay pots at the end of those 3 months than the one group that has been focusing on just building one and the perfect clay pot. Because iteration begets skill. Iteration begets perfection almost, or iteration at least begets excellence. And that is what you get. If your iteration cycle is 2 to 3 months, then of course you will not get very good at what you're doing. And so I'm not saying this to dunk on the guy. I'm saying this to point to a very common mistake that B2B service providers make, which is failure to distinguish between sales and marketing. And this distinction isn't just academic. It really is important, and it is not clear to many people. And there's many different interpretations of these two terms. My definition is this: sales is about interrupting your target client in what they are doing and presenting them with a commercial offer to which they can say yes or no. In a B2B context, the yes is usually the agreement to have a sales call. And the interruption usually manifests in 3 ways. You either cold email or cold DM them, you cold call them, or you present them with an ad when they're doing something else like watching TV, or in our case, in B2B case, more like reading the LinkedIn newsfeed. And because you interrupt them, there will always be a share of your target market that will be unhappy about that. So that's simply part of the game. You have to accept that. So that is sales. Interrupting, making an offer, polarizing, getting on a call, discovering, pitching, closing. Straight line. Marketing, in contrast, is the process of getting known, liked, and trusted. By posting content, adding value, teaching, educating, entertaining, giving free stuff, showing that you're an expert. This then leads to people developing sort of a relationship with you and then being willing to proactively book a sales call with you. So marketing is extremely useful to book sales calls, especially because those sales calls will then be much more effective. You will convert at a much higher rate, but they take much longer to materialize. And so what my prospect had built was mostly an elaborate marketing funnel, at the end of which was a very soft sales pitch. He was convinced that this was the only way to get a client, by providing a lot of value upfront. Well, it is one way to get clients, but it has one massive downside. Your learning cycle will become incredibly stretched out. Also, of course, you will get clients later than if you just focus on selling. And so here's what I mean. I'm sure you're familiar with the lean startup concept of the build, measure, learn cycle. We know it in the context of launching a startup idea. You want to get a very rudimentary idea in front of prospective clients fast so that they can give you feedback so you can improve. What most B2B consultants and service providers intuitively understand for products and startup ideas, they don't translate into the realm of validating an offer with prospective clients. Why? Because they already think they know how to sell their services. Why? Because they have had a few clients before via referrals. But newsflash, you don't know how to sell, right? Selling only counts when it's to complete strangers. That is truly when you sell. If you're working in a shop and your aunt comes around and you sell her something, well, have you really sold her, right? It's just she wants something anyway, and then you are there and you're the nephew and you're going to sell her something. This is not a hard sell, right? Not a difficult sell. You would have to be extremely lousy at what you do to not be able to sell to someone who has a relationship with you, who comes recommended even. Getting gigs through referrals and your network alone is a middle ground between being an employee and having your own business. Because having an actual business must mean that you have such a good offer that complete strangers want to transact with you. So it's actually quite a leap in the development of a consultant when they go from referral-based to client acquisition systems-based. This is like when the umbilical cord really gets cut, when you are able to convert strangers. That is the hallmark of an actual professional independent business. Referrals are great, but they need to be the cherry on top, not the whole cake. And what doesn't click for most B2B consultants is that your ability to close a stranger is also the product of a build, measure, learn cycle. You have to put your offer in front of your prospects. If they don't want to transact with you, you ask why, you adjust your offer, and then you try again with the next prospect. It's really similar to the lean startup method. It's all about finding offer market fit. And that is why this visual, right? This is a representation of a sales call. You build, measure, learn, iterate, build, measure, learn, iterate, build, measure. And every single time you do it, you hopefully, if you take the correct learnings, you become better at it. Whereas if you do this 3-month Hail Mary pass, where you just drip people information, you send them hopefully valuable cold emails, you create lead magnets, you spend 15 hours on creating one PDF because you hope that your prospective clients will develop a know, like, and trust relationship with you. All of that is a big gamble if so far you have only been selling to referral clients, to people who come recommended to you. That's a huge gamble. You will take 3 months before you've actually put a sales proposition in front of someone. So, big risk. Back to my prospect. Remember how long it would take him to do an actual sales pitch using his marketing funnel? 3 months. All this time he would spend becoming known, liked, and trusted, and only then he would make the ask. Well, how long is his build, measure, learn cycle? 3 months. Only in 3 months' time he will get definitive feedback if people want to buy his stuff. And it could very well happen that no one of the 5 people he would do the diagnostic project, the free diagnostic project for, would ultimately accept his paid offer because the offer is maybe bad and it doesn't give enough value. That's a real possibility. You could, after 3 months, will have done 5 free diagnostic projects and not close a single client. After 3 months. It's really unlikely if you do one sales pitch every day. If you just focus on booking sales calls with prospective clients, you give them a pitch, one a day, and every single time you learn and iterate. It is extremely unlikely you will not have a close in 3 months. Imagine that. 90, maybe whatever, weekends, but 75, 80 sales calls. How likely is it that you will not make a close then? And as we know, in the case of my prospect, he's broke 2 months from now. So his approach is total no-go from the start. If instead he simply cold email 100 people a day, he could set up sales calls tomorrow and get his first instant of feedback tomorrow. So a 90 times shorter build, measure, learn cycle. Now, if your instant reaction to the idea of cold emailing your market is, oh, this wouldn't work in my market needs a lot of trust building first. Well, sorry, but I call BS on that. Yes, of course, you won't close the owner of a 500-person company for a 100K deal tomorrow if you don't have the same level of status. But don't tell me that it's not possible to book an exploratory call with the CEO of a 10, 20, 30-person company and close them on the second or third call for a low 4-figure a month retainer deal. That's more than possible. I've done it. My clients have done it. It happens every day. You can sell to strangers who have not built much of a trusting relationship with you yet. So my main point here is understand the difference between sales and marketing. Sales is to make a commercial offer and force a decision, yes or no. Give me money for value provided or not. If you say no, then I will adjust my offer until somebody says yes. Marketing is, however, to become known, liked, and trusted with the ultimate aim that people proactively book a call with you and convert. Both methods are perfectly valid. I'm really not dunking on marketing. Don't get me wrong here. But you need to build them sequentially. First, do sales. Send cold DMs and cold emails to book calls, and you will close strangers. Doing this first will also mean that you will learn much faster, right? This is so important. You will understand what prospects really care about and what makes them say yes to a commercial value proposition. Once you know that, once you have that down pat, you move on to marketing with as long a sales cycle, but also much higher conversion rates. You keep sales going, those little circles, I keep iterating, but now you can also add marketing into the mix. Like I've had one client who converted relatively recently, and he had been following me for literally 2 years. He'd been listening to my podcast and these YouTube videos for almost 2 years before he actually signed up. And we've been in loose contact. Sometimes he, considered a collaboration, and then again, no, still wasn't the right time for him, but he kept listening to my stuff. And now he's in. It was a 2-year sales cycle that I barely knew about, right? He was just converting himself gradually without me knowing about it. And all the while, my sales systems, my outbound prospecting systems and my sales systems are the backbone of my business. They provide a lot of stability and a lot of predictability. And any single thing that comes on top when it comes to marketing is a cherry on the cake. It's not the main cake. So you keep sales, even when you do marketing, you keep sales going, but you now add marketing into the mix. A huge advantage of this approach is that sales makes your marketing much better. So important to understand, because you have learned to go for the jugular. You actually found out what makes your market buy from you. You know what matters to them. That's so interesting that so many people who I know are struggling, for example, on LinkedIn, they get great engagement on LinkedIn, but they don't get the engagement from the right people. They get engagement from their peers and other people in the market. They put out, selfie posts and really trite and boring advice, but they are popular. Either they are very attractive or they put the general feel-good content out there and so on, but they don't convert. And I've spoken to many of them, and I know for a fact that many of these people who are engagement rich are actually money poor. Why? That is because they don't take their cues on what content to post, on what to discuss. They don't take the cues from actual clients or from sales calls. They take it from whatever comes to their mind, whatever they have seen trending from other people. That is deadly. You will get great engagement, but you will not make a lot of money because this kind of stuff does not resonate with your target market. I have very low YouTube views, for example. I have my most popular video ever was like 2,000 views, and mostly I'm about the 80 to 100 viewer mark if you look at the average. But I regularly convert people via YouTube because I talk about the stuff that matters to my clients. Look at this video. This video is inspired by an actual sales call. If this person who, full transparency, did not convert with me, I wanted to onboard him, he didn't want to. But if this person is struggling with this concept, they have some kind of marketing funnel going and it's not booking them sales calls, and I tell them, hey, maybe you'd want to actually do sales before you do marketing. And they, oh my God, I don't want to do cold outreach. I'm going to be spamming people. Okay, this is a limitation. This is a limiting belief that I can help people resolve, but most people are not, or some people are simply not ready for it. But if you watch this video, and I'm slowly indoctrinating you with this, which is a good thing, right? In this case, because I'm helping you make more money. So I'm slowly indoctrinating you. I'm taking away the fear of being salesy. I'm taking away your fear of being salesy. Then I will not get many views on this. Not many people watch these kinds of videos where I'm sort of reframing some of their limiting beliefs. But those who do listen are exactly my kind of audience. Just a small story. I recently booked a sales call with somebody. I reached out to them on Thursday. This person, he booked a sales call for Monday. And in between, it was 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He binge watched most of my YouTube content. And then on Monday, he was ready. Because although I have very few views on YouTube, they are impactful because I talk about the stuff that matters to my target clients. Why? Because I have a lot of sales calls and we close 1 to 2 new clients every week for my business because I know what matters to people. So this is why doing good sales makes your marketing so much better. You will have learned to go for the jugular. You actually found out what makes your market buy from you. You know what matters to them. And therefore, your marketing will be far more punchy and informed by the real world than if you try to guess what kind of topics your target market might care about. These are the people who are in this engagement trap on LinkedIn. They get 100 likes per post, but no one buys from them. And the added benefit of this is that once you have both systems implemented, sales and marketing, you also reduce the volatility in client acquisition because like in a stock portfolio, you now have 2 uncorrelated assets that somewhat cancel out each other's volatility. There's a basic concept, if you're not familiar, there's a basic concept in portfolio theory that you take one stock in one industry, another stock in a completely different industry, maybe even in a different geography, so that they are uncorrelated. If the, economy goes south, it does not mean that both of those stocks are going south. Maybe one is cyclical, the other one is counter-cyclical. So you are therefore slightly diversified and your portfolio will not take as much of a hit. It's the same with sales and marketing. When sales is maybe you hit a slump, you hit a bad lead list and so on, then maybe marketing will at least stay stable or pick up the slack. Similarly, if you have a streak of bad videos, you just don't really know what to talk about, your marketing is going to take a nosedive, then maybe at least sales will stay stable. You will experience less volatility. So what happened with my prospect here? Did he sign up with me? No. And that's because he just wasn't comfortable with the idea of selling. And that deserves to be the final point, because many people make this mistake. They think that if they contact one potential target client, that this lead is burned forever, that they have super embarrassed themselves. It's totally unbecoming in their field to be soliciting for business and so on. All this kind of nonsense. Facts are, and I've learned this kind of the hard way, I was also very reluctant in doing outreach because I was thinking I would burn a lead forever. It's not true. You can contact the same people over and over again. Of course, not every day, but you can contact somebody in February and then again in May. Is not a problem at all. And someone who replies to your cold email with "stop emailing me," even with exclamation points, they won't remember your name 10 minutes later. And the same person might actually respond positively 1 month later. That happened to me several times. For example, there was once one lady who, and the time difference was indeed 4 weeks. On cold email, one of my virtual assistants cold emailed her, and she responded relatively strongly saying, "Hey, I don't want this, stop emailing me," and so on. And then 1 month later, she got into my LinkedIn automation. I don't run automation on LinkedIn anymore, but at the point I was doing it. And she got into that. And lo and behold, she responded, "Sure, I'd be interested. I would be interested in having a call." What changed? Nothing changed. It was simply maybe my first message did not resonate with her. Maybe it wasn't a good time. Maybe she was having a bad day. And then 4 weeks later, when she responded, maybe she was having a good day and she was open to it. Or maybe my message was slightly different. It doesn't really matter. You just can contact people over and over again. She ended up not signing up with me. And then there's this other gentleman who got into my cold email funnel some 14 months ago. And I normally, of course, remove people who tell me no, thank you. But this gentleman has told me no, thank you 14 months ago. But somehow I made a mistake and I contacted him again via cold email. I know this is not perfectly according to the rules, but it just happened. It was unintentional. And then he responded and said, "Sure, let's book a call." And 2 weeks ago, he actually signed up. So it's really not a problem. People will immediately forget that you have cold emailed them. And if you have a small list, then you can do good, genuine personalization. And that will lead to people being really impressed with your prospecting. And I should know I'm getting one such compliment every other day. Our cold emails are personalized in a very, I would say, if I may say so, astute way, that we provide some personalization that is scalable, and yet still it gives people a very good impression of us. And that is what really works. We're booking 3 to 5% of sales calls with this method. So don't worry, send that email, do the prospecting. This is not caveman times when you get ridiculed and made fun of when you make a pass at a cave woman who then rejects you. We've moved on from that. Understand the difference between sales and marketing. Realize that when you are emerging from this half-awake state, this half-employee state where you still depend on referrals and your network, and you move into the field of where you want to convert strangers as clients, it is far better to do sales, to do outreach, and immediately polarize people into, "Hey, do you want this? Yes or no?" To interrupt them at what they're doing, best via cold email or LinkedIn DMs, and make sure that they book a sales call with you where the expectation is, yes, this person might sell me something. And why am I fine with that? Because I have a problem that this person looks like they might have a solution for. Focus on this first before building elaborate marketing funnels, because you don't know what makes strangers tick.